Hello my lovely crafters, I'm Andy here. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today we're going to make the cover that's going to house our fold flat journal. Okay, beautiful design. It all folds flat. It is a writing journal, so we're not going to fill it with heaps of embellishments. And then I've shown you how to create this folio element. It's all locked. I'm not going to go through it all. I will link the playlist in the description box below that shows the tutorials for these. Okay, you can follow step by step. I give you all the measurements. The cutting guide for this is free. It's all in the tutorials. Okay, so we're going to make the cover. So how have I sized my cover? So I make all of mine using A4 digitals. If you're a letter size user, your journal might end up a different size to mine. So I will always try and guide you into resizing my projects. Okay, and once you've got the height and the width sorted, the rest you can kind of work out for yourself. You just might need to do slight adjustments. Okay, so for mine is going to measure 8 3/4 by 4 1/4. That is going to be the height and the width of my cover. Okay, however determined that size if you want to resize it. So I have determined it by going 1/4 of an inch taller on the height of the folio, not the journal, the folio. Okay, so my folio measures 8 1/2. So I've gone 1/4 of an inch, so that we've got 1/8 of an inch gap top and bottom. Just so that, and the reason being, just so that those covers, the idea of covers, if you look at any book, the idea is that you've got a small lip all the way around to protect what's inside. So if you're pushing it in on a shelf or you're stacking it, whatever, the internal parts are always going to be protected. So you never want your covers exactly the same size as the internal components. Okay, so 1/4 of an inch taller, and then I believe I've gone 1/4 of an inch wider. So that's on the folio measurements. Okay, if you're judging it by your journal, I've added 1/2 inch to the height of my journal, and then I've added quite a bit on the side there because I want to allow for the pocket, etc. So I've added 1/2 inch that way as well. So that's the measurements if you're using the journal, and if you're doing the folio, you want it 1/4 of an inch higher and 1/4 of an inch wider. Okay, right. So you want two pieces the same, one for your front and one for your back. So again, mine are at 8 3/4 by 6 1/4. Then you want a spine piece, which is the same height. So for me, that's 8 3/4. And the width to house my folio and my journal, if you're following exactly the same, so that it will fit nicely, okay, and we're not over embellishing and we don't want gator mouth. So the width of the spine I've determined needs to be 1 1/4. If you're doing a journal where you want loads of embellishing, okay, you're going to need to add at least an extra 1/4 of an inch on that. I'm not going to add, this is a writing journal. Okay, I'm going to have all of my fun parts in here. So I am using the acrylic tape method. Acrylic fabric tape. It comes on a roll like so. If you want to know where I get it from, check out my video about my most used products that I use, my crafty things. I'll link it in the description box below. I'm not linking it on every single video. Okay, and it's super thin, and its main purpose, what it's designed for really, is to go around computer cables, electrical things, you know, but it's wafer thin and it's super strong. Okay, paper will stick to it nicely. It's got a removable backing. It's just easier than doing everything with, you know, wrapping it like a traditional album with cardstock. So we put the first piece down. Okay, I may well speed this process up because I have done it so many times. So I've cut this just shy of the height of there, just a slightly bit shorter. And you want to stick that on halfway. So depending on how long it takes me, I'll either leave it in real time or I'll fast forward it. Okay, it just depends. And then we're going to get the next piece. And again, we're doing it around the back there. So it is very, very sticky. And the reason we use this, and I'm not the only person that uses this, is it will not split, okay? Cardstock, no matter how skilled you are or how careful you are, it can split, okay? In the gussets especially. Over time, it can split. This stuff will not split. It absolutely will not. It is as sturdy as anything. So I'm going to put that on about, not quite halfway, just under halfway, okay? And then in the centre here, I'm going to leave 2 thicknesses. Let me just get some scrap. You want whatever thickness you've used. I'm using 2mm. You can use anything, as long as you use the same thing for each piece. And whatever you've used, you want 2 thicknesses of it, okay? Like so, lined up, and then put it in between there. And that is the gap that you need between this cover and the spine, okay? So that it all closes nicely. So if I just press that scrap on there, it will leave an imprint, okay? And I can use that as a guideline, okay? I'm going to put my T-ruler at the top there, so I've got a straight edge, so I can push this up against that straight edge, okay? It'll just help me line it up, all right? Or use your grid mat, or you can use a bookbinding tool, but this is the easiest way to do it without any tools. And then see how when that folds, it's not catching onto there, it's kind of sitting inside it, okay? And that's what you want. Otherwise, it won't lay flat, and it won't open and close nicely, okay? Okay, that's why we do that. All right. So my next piece, and that, and we're going to do the same again, just under halfway. Okay, centre it, top and bottom. Get your scrap pieces again. Put them right up against that spine, and that will leave a dusty impression on there, okay? And then we can put our next cover on. Let me move my T-ruler there, so I've got a flush edge, and I am going to, let me just move that up a bit. Okay, if you've got a slightly bigger gap on one than the other, you know, it's not that big of a deal. What you're aiming for is to get this piece fairly straight, okay? Yeah, you don't want it kind of like wonky. Then we put a piece on the end, okay. And it is acid free because, you know, it is made for electrical components. So if you're wondering if it's acid free, yes it is. Okay, and then we're going to get 2 pieces and we're going to put them in the centre part. Okay, but you want to put them on, don't just put them on flat. What you want to do is you want to kind of get hold of it and kind of curve it on your finger like that. And you're going to go on one side, so we're going on the cover, okay? But we're not letting it go into the gusset yet. And I've cut this ever so slightly smaller. So I'm lifting it up so that it's not sticking onto there flat, okay? And what you want to do is you want to get your bone folder and you want to coax it into that gusset whilst you just gently hold that bit up. Okay, that stops it from if you just lay it flat across there, you're going to have a gap in the middle where the tape's not adhered to the back tape. By doing it this way, that tape now is in that gusset, okay? It's pressed up against the edge of here. So imagine this is the edge, so your tape's now in there and it's also on that edge and it's also down in there and it's pressed onto that tape at the back. So you've got a nice clean look, okay? And then we're going to score it and burnish it towards the spine, and then we're going to roll it over, okay? So you can see you've got that defined gusset there. And we're going to do the same with the next piece. So we're holding it on. If you're clever, this is 45mm wide, is this. So it will cover over nicely, and then you can lay your pattern paper over, so you're not going to see much of that join. So again, I'm going to use the flat end of this. Don't use sharp things, because you know nothing's infallible. If you put something sharp through, it's almost like a fabric, but it's not fabric, it's made out of acrylic. You know, you'll puncture it, so you don't want that, but it won't split. Okay, so I'm pushing it against the lips, the edges of the chipboard, and then push over. Okay, so that's that bit. Then you get some more of your tape. All right, and what you want to do is measure from the edge of that to the edge of that, like so. Okay, and then cut. And you want two, one for each side. A lot of my followers and a lot of my members will have seen me do this 100 times. But if I just came on and just showed it you, everybody'd be like, well, how have you done that? So, you know, I do like to show step by step, so that anybody who's brand new will know how it is done. Okay, when you're removing the tape, just be gentle with it when you're removing the backing, so it doesn't like flick back onto itself and get in a big heap of a mess. But it's something that comes with practice of using it. Probably the first time you use it, you'll find it really tricky. By the second time, you'll wonder where it's been all your life, and you'll absolutely love it. Okay, so I'm centralising that about halfway. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other piece and I'm going to do the same at the bottom. Excuse me. Get off your sticky little thing. It is very sticky, but it's so good. All right, and then you lift that up and you put it over, you centralise it side to side and put it over halfway. Okay, and then you just treat that area there as if you've used 12 by 12 cardstock. Okay, so I'm going to trim these so that it's even. Okay, no matter if it's not perfect, but do your best. Okay, and then you would just do the same as you do with cardstock when you're wrapping something. You know, you mite at the corners, you fold it over, but you just take a little bit extra time. Again, in the gussets, like I say, making sure it's in like we did with here, so that it's nice and neat. All right, so we can get our 2 widths of chipboard, and this will work for the mitering as well. I've got a special tool, but I'm showing you how to do it if you don't have the special tool. Right, so that's going to leave an imprint. That's going to leave an imprint. Do it on all 4 sides. And there. All right, and then we're going to cut. So cut to the very far right of that dusty mark that it will have left for you. Okay, you want plenty of room here. Better to have it too big than too small, because if you've cut it too short, then this corner will be exposed when you've finished wrapping, and you don't want that. But if it does happen, all you need to do, if you can see that corner, because it's not quite perfect, get yourself a black sharper or some kind of marker and just colour it in. Nobody will notice, I promise you. It's really not a problem. Okay, just use a Sharpie or a black marker of some description, and that will solve that problem for you. Just going to make that even, because I'm a little bit finicky. I'm a little bit fussy. Okay, let me get rid of all of that. So now what we do is we get the top piece and we're going to pull it up and push the cover down and pull the tape up. It won't stretch, won't the tape? It's not elasticated, okay? And we're pulling it up so that it's going onto the very edge of the chipboard, okay? So that's why we're doing that. All right, and then now what you want to do is start from the middle, okay? And then here, pull it and go out towards the edge, okay? And then ignore the middle, okay? And come here to the middle. Pull it and then kind of go towards that corner. Then you're going to be left with like a bit of a bubble here, okay? What you want to do is you want to very carefully push that bubble, okay? Just push the bubble. All right, and then what you want to do is from this side, you want to push it into that gusset. Just make sure it's flat there. Okay, push it into the gusset, drop it into there, and then come from this side, push, and push the bubble into there. Okay, and that's how you'll get nice, neat results. Okay. Just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've got a tiny wrinkle there. Doesn't matter, she won't see it. Okay, so then you do exactly the same here, and then you wrap these. So once you've done this, I'm going to do this a little bit faster, okay? I'm going to pull that up and make sure it's right on the edge of that chipboard. So if you can get it stuck on the edge of the chipboard, it will save it from wrinkling at the top section. So here I'm going in the middle, and I'm going to push the rest of that, and I'm almost kind of pulling it towards the right, but not, if you know what I mean. And then I'm going to do the same here, and then kind of pull this and smooth it towards the left, okay? Then I'm going to push there, and I'm going to making sure that that's, you can even just push in the middle. Push that in and plop it in. Push that bit of a bubble there, and you can plop it in, and it will sit into there, okay? So then all you need to do is very much again like when you're doing your cardstock, is flatten these little bit of overhang that you're going to have, okay? And when you do it, make sure you're pushing it right up against the lip of the chipboard again, so that you've got nice neat corners, okay? This kind of thing does come with practice. You'll just get better every time you do it. Okay, so if you do something and you think, I've not done a very good job of that, don't say to yourself, I'm rubbish, I'm not going to do that again. Okay, because you're never going to get something perfect, done perfect the first time. You know, things take practice, you know. Nobody can bake a cake perfect the first time. Even if they're following a recipe, there's so many variables. But we don't give up. We keep trying, and we learn until we get it how we're happy with it. Right, so I've pushed them flat. So now I can lift this up. I'm going to make sure it's, again, stuck on the lip, on the edge there. Okay. I always go in the middle and then move my way across. Okay, there we go, and I'll do the same here. So I'm lifting it up. See that tiny 2mm lip there? You want to pull it up so that that tape is stuck onto there, and it's lovely and sticky. It will stick on, okay? And that will save you getting wrinkles when you then fold it over, okay? So then go to the middle. So you are kind of pulling it to make sure that you don't get wrinkles, but it won't stretch. You're just pulling it a little bit taut. Okay? And there you go. You've got lovely, lovely, perfectly wrapped journal cover. Okay? And it will be nice and flexible. You could even have it that way now if you wanted. Okay? I tend to have a look, which is my favourite side, and have that as my front, because you know your little eyes will tell you which one looks tidiest, okay? So then on the back here, if you followed the tutorial for the folio and looked at the cutting guide, which is in the description box below this video, I've just typed it all out for you. You don't even have to go hunting, it's there. We made this pocket. So let me just have a look where we're going to put it. Am I going to put it right up against the edge? Let me have a look. Haven't decided. Let's have a think. Right, so I've got quite a bit of room there. I've left a nice gap. Okay, so I can, what I call centralise it. So whenever I say centralise, what it means is when you put it on, and it's going to be difficult to see because this is all black, but when you're centralising something, okay, we're centralising it this way. Yeah, it means that you're making sure you have got an even gap, top, side to side. Okay, so you've got about 1/8 of an inch there, and if you've got 1/8 of an inch there, you want to put 1/8 of an inch there. That's centralising. Okay, so you're getting it in the middle of there. All right, so we can get some glue on here, or you could use a good quality tape like the Suquang or Scorpal tape. I don't I have purchased one from another supplier that's a non-branded one. I am still in the process of making sure I like it, but I'm actually preferring glue at the moment because sometimes I can't get things straight when I use tape. So if I can use glue without it looking a mess, then I will. Okay, so I'm going to centralise that. Now, one thing you can do is you can glue your flap on first. Don't put any glue on these. And then when you've got it in the place you want, you can add some kind of masking tape or washi tape on here. It stops things crashing against this edge. Okay, I'm not too worried, but it is a useful technique. Okay, so I'm centralising that. Get that excess glue off. Okay, and I'm making sure that that is adhered down nicely and it's fairly straight, and I want to really do want to even top and bottom so that my journal sits in the cover evenly. Okay, all right, just give that chance to dry, and then obviously you can decorate in there and decorate the pocket. Not that you're going to see it because your journal's going to be sat in it, but you know, it's like one of them, isn't it? You're still going to decorate it. Right, so then the folio element, okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to use a different glue here, I think. I'm going to use Collal. And I'm using a different glue just because it's a larger surface area. It's quite a large area. And this glue press dispenses glue at quite a slow pace because it's for precision work. So by the time I've started gluing there, because it's a big space, by the time I've glued the bottom, the top's starting to dry already. So I don't get a heap of wiggle room. So I will switch to Collal. Now, we do believe that this is only available in certain countries. It is more or less the same as Fabri-Tac or Beacon 3-in-1. It is a solvent-based clear drying glue, but it doesn't dry quite as fast as this, so I've got more wiggle room. Okay, so I'm just going to take these little, I haven't decorated all of this yet, I've only made these little photo mats so far and decorated that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, no, I'll do it after. I'm going to apply my glue and then I will open all of this up once I've got it placed and make sure that it's adhered, you know, pressed down. Again, you can use tape if you want, but I just think glue, I don't know, I feel like glue's a bit stronger. Okay. Especially with all those flips and those flaps, and then it's going to hold photos. It's going to be a bit chunkier and a bit more weighty than it is at the moment. At the moment, it's just in its basic naked form, okay, because I've not decorated it or anything. And I find it easier to add these into my cover before they're decorated, and then I will decorate them whilst it's in the thingy. Have I cut my chipboard wonky? I think my chipboard might have cut that a bit wonky. It looks like it's got a slight curve. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Now you want this centralised, but you want it a little bit more towards this edge here, okay, than towards the spine. So let me just have a look. So the gap that I've got top and bottom, the even gap there, I want an even gap, but I want it more towards facing me here than up towards the spine, okay? It just gives you that little bit of a 1/4 of an inch there for when you're opening the internal flaps and things, so it's not crashing, okay? So I'm happy with the placement of that. I'm not happy that my chipboard looks a little bit wonky, but I'll flatten it out with my bone folder, it'll be fine. So now, while that's in place, I'm going to open all of this up, okay? And I'm going to go in with my burnishing tool from the very inside of the folio and get that down nicely. And hopefully it's not shifted. Hopefully it's not shifted, okay? But that glue, I'm just spreading it out. It won't be dry yet because it's a slightly slower drying glue. Okay, so I'm spreading that glue out. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm just going to close everything. That way, that way, that way, and that way. I'm just going to check that it's not shifted and it's not wonky, and it hasn't. It's fine. Okay, I seem to be plagued with bits at the moment on my desk. I think I need to give my desk a scrub and a bleach. Right, so just going to see if that wonky edge there is down to my tape rather than my cutting skills. Yeah, it's my tape that's not fully adhered. So on the edge of your chipboard as well, do burnish it to make sure it's down fully flat. Okay, and here, I can take that off now, and here, yeah, it's not fully adhered there, it's not glued down fully. So I'm going to open it back up, okay, and I'm going to put some pressure here because I could see a gap, okay. Just going to add some pressure there. Okay. You could build the folio direct onto the cover, okay, you absolutely could. You could miss out the piece A on the cutting guide and build all of these direct onto the cover. But I designed it so that if somebody just wants to make just the folio as a project and not add it, then they could, and it was all there, okay? In case anybody's wondering why we've glued it on when we could have just built it on. That's why. And then maybe also somebody could recreate this and put it in a different journal with different papers as well. All right, there's always a method to my madness. Always a reason for everything. Not always the right reason, but there's always a reason. Right, so I'm just going to check here. Is it really gappy? Does it need a bit more pressure? I think it's all right. Let's have a look here. Is it really gappy? It's still drying. I can still see that it's wet, okay? So just keep checking, all right? And eventually, when that is all, just keep burnishing and spreading that glue. And eventually, when that glue's dry, just keep adding pressure. Then you won't be able to see any, you know, massive gaps. A tiny gap is fine because it's different layers of paper on top of the cover. But you don't want gaping gaps where it's just not adhered down properly. There's a difference, okay? Let's have a look. Is that better? There we go, that's better. All right, so let's fold all this back in. Ignore the white writing. I did that for my tutorial so people could see the black paper. Okay, it's all going to get covered with my patterned paper when I come to decorate it. So have I got a gap there? No, it's not gaping anymore. Have I got one there? No. Have I got any there? No, it's down nice and flush. Got a little bit of glue seepage there that I don't like the look of. Okay. But I'll wait until I'm confident it's dry, and then I'll just try and get it out with either a pokey tool or my glue eraser. It's not a biggie. Okay, remember, progress over perfection every time. So these will now hold all of that nice and closed. I need to go and line all of that with patterned paper and do my photo mats. And is this dried? Let's see if this is dried. I want to make sure that that's down nice and flat as well, and there's no gaping, otherwise it will lift. Let me give it another burnish. Okay, there we go. Let me have a look. If I feel like it's lifting because I've not burnished it in time, I just don't think that's bad. I will very gently just lift the corner up and go in with my precision glue gun and just add a tiny bit more glue if I thought that was the case. So now this, the back cover of your journal, will slide in here. Okay, I'm being careful. You really do need to wait for it to dry. Okay, don't do it while it's still wet. Okay, and it will go all the way in. I'm going to line it with pattern paper. Look, you can see it's not all the way in. Okay, it's not all the way in. I'm not going to force it because it's still wet, but that isn't all the way in. It can go in a little bit further, but you should have a good 1/4 of an inch spare there as well, so that when those are together, you've got this lovely folio element. Okay, and once it's all decorated and you've got it how you like it, that will be finished. So I'm going to go away and I'll probably decorate the cover quite simply, because I've done quite a lot of you know, shakers and goodness knows what this month. I just fancy simplicity, so I'm just going to let the paper do the work. Okay, but that is how we're doing it. So all I've got to do now is decorate all of that, add my photo mats, add some flat embellishments to there. Okay, and I'm done. So the next video will be a final review, and I will show you and I will flip through, and you can see when it's laid like so, we have not got gator mouth. Okay, all right, and there's still a small amount of room in there. You can add an extra closure if you feel like your book's sliding about. I think once my pocket's dry, there we go, it's sliding in better. You could add, you know, a wrap around or whatever. I don't feel like I need to or want to. I'm happy with it as it is. Okay, so there we go, that's that project finish. So now I'm going to get on with the next collection and think of some more fantastic fun makes for you to try. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be a final review.